Imagine the chaos high above the Pacific Ocean in the heat of World War II, where Japanese pilots in their nimble Zeros streak through the sky, confident in their superiority, until suddenly, out of the clouds, roars a squadron of American U.S. Navy fighters unlike anything they've seen. The Grumman F6F Hellcats, engines thundering, guns blazing, turning the tide in an instant and sending shockwaves through the enemy ranks. These rugged machines, born from American ingenuity during the Second World War, catch the Japanese completely off guard, dominating the skies and protecting our carriers in the vast Pacific theater. But how did these Hellcats rise to become the heroes of the air, and what stories of courage from young American boys made it all possible? Let's dive right into that incredible journey. It all starts in the dark days after Pearl Harbor, when the surprise attack on December 7, 1941, pulls America into WW2 with a fury. Japanese Zeros rule the skies, outmaneuvering our early fighters like the F4F Wildcat in brutal dogfights over the Coral Sea and Midway. Our pilots, brave young men from farms in Iowa and cities in New York, feel the sting of those losses, writing letters home about the fear and determination burning in their hearts. Take Ensign John Thompson, a 22-year-old from Ohio, who scribbles to his sweetheart, "Darling, these Zeros are fast, but we're learning. I promise I'll make it back to you." He's typical of those American soldiers, stepping up with grit in the U.S. Navy's carrier groups. But the brass knows we need something better, something that can take the fight to the enemy. Enter the engineers at Grumman Aircraft, working around the clock in the shadows of the war effort. They study captured Zeros, learning their secrets, and pour that knowledge into designing the F6F Hellcat. This beast features a powerful Pratt & Whitney R2800 engine, cranking out 2,000 horsepower, armored cockpit to protect our pilots, and 6.50 caliber machine guns that spit fire like nothing else. By June 1942, the prototype lifts off, and after rigorous tests, it's ready for action. Imagine the pride swelling in those test pilots' chests as they push the Hellcat to its limits, knowing it's going to save lives in the Pacific theater. Fast forward to September 1, 1943, when Hellcats from the USS Independence score their first kill, downing a Japanese flying boat. Word spreads like wildfire among our squadrons. Finally, a fighter that climbs faster, dives harder, and absorbs punishment while dishing it out. Lieutenant Bill Harris, a Texan with a quick smile, recalls in a letter to his folks, "Mom, Dad, this Hellcat handles like a dream. It's got the punch we need to even the score." And even they do, racking up victories in raids on Marcus Island and Wake, where American pilots in their Hellcats swarm the skies, protecting our bombers and striking fear into the Japanese. But the real test comes in the spring of 1944, as the U.S. Navy pushes toward the Marianas Islands, a key stepping stone to Japan itself during the Second World War. Admiral Mark Mitcher commands Task Force 58, a massive fleet of carriers loaded with Hellcats. Our boys, like young Ensign Robert Duncan from California, train endlessly, sharing stories of home over coffee in the ready rooms. Duncan writes to his brother, "We're going in strong this time. These Hellcats make us feel invincible." The tension builds as scouts spot the Japanese fleet approaching, their carriers launching waves of Zeros, Vals, and Kates in a desperate bid to halt our advance. Dawn breaks on June 19, 1944, and the Battle of the Philippine Sea erupts, what history calls the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. Hellcats launch from decks of the USS Lexington, Yorktown, and Enterprise, climbing to meet the enemy. Captain David McCampbell, a seasoned leader from Alabama, leads his squadron from the Essex. He's 34, older than most, but his eyes are sharp, his resolve unbreakable. As the first wave of Japanese planes appears on radar, McCampbell radios his men, "Stick close, boys. We've got the edge now." The sky fills with tracers and smoke as Hellcats dive into the fray, their superior speed and firepower overwhelming the lighter Zeros. In the thick of it, McCampbell spots a formation of Judies, Japanese dive bombers, heading for our ships. He banks hard, lines up his sights, and squeezes the trigger, watching one burst into flames. But more come, wave after wave. Our pilots fight like lions, coordinating attacks, covering each other's tails. Lieutenant Junior Grade Alex Frashu, a Chicago kid with Romanian roots, bags 6 in 8 minutes, his Hellcat twisting through the chaos. He later tells his wingman, "It was like shooting fish in a barrel, but those guys were fighting for their lives too." By day's end, American Hellcats claim over 300 enemy planes, with minimal losses. What a turnaround in WW2's Pacific Air War. Yet, as the sun sets, scouts report the Japanese carriers retreating, but not defeated. Whispers among the crews hint at a bigger clash brewing. Our boys refuel and rearm, hearts pounding with exhaustion and exhilaration. McCampbell lands, his plane riddled with holes, but he grins at the deck crew. She's tough, just like us. Letters home that night carry a mix of triumph and worry. Duncan pens, "We gave 'em hell today, but I miss you all. Pray for us." The stage is set for more, and you can't help but wonder, what would you have done up there, facing those endless waves? The victory at the Philippine Sea shifts momentum, but the Japanese aren't done. They regroup, plotting a massive counterstrike in the fall of 1944. Our forces eye the Philippines, aiming to liberate them and cut off Japan's oil supply. General Douglas MacArthur promises to return, and the U.S. Navy's Hellcats stand ready to back him up. Pilots like Ensign Thomas Sprague from Missouri join the fray, fresh from training, eager to prove themselves. Sprague writes to his mom, "This Hellcat feels like an extension of me. We're gonna bring freedom back to those islands." October 23, 1944, the Battle of Leyte Gulf begins, the largest naval battle in history during the Second World War. Japanese fleets converge from multiple directions, their remaining carriers baiting our forces. Hellcats scramble from Task Force 38, patrolling the skies over the invasion beaches. McCampbell, now the air group commander, takes off at first light on the 24th, his F6F loaded for bear. Radar picks up a huge enemy formation, over 40 planes, bearing down on our ships. McCampbell and his wingman, Lieutenant Roy Rushing, climb to intercept, alone against the horde. The action explodes as McCampbell dives into the pack, guns chattering. He nails a 0, then twists to avoid fire, lining up another. One by one, they fall, 5, 6, 7. His ammo dwindles, but he presses on, using short bursts to conserve. Rushing covers him, downing a few himself. McCampbell's voice crackles over the radio, "Stay with me, Roy, we're not done yet." In a feat that defies belief, he bags 9 in that single sortie, a record for any American pilot. As he RTBs with empty guns, the crew cheers him aboard. What courage! Imagine being that lone warrior in the sky, odds stacked against you. Would you have kept fighting, or turned back? But the battle rages on. Japanese kamikazes emerge, a new desperate tactic, crashing into our ships. Hellcats rise to meet them, our pilots pushing their machines to the limit. Lieutenant Cecil Harris from South Dakota scores 24 kills over months, his letters home full of humble pride, "It's not about me, it's about the team. These American soldiers are my brothers." In the Sibuyan Sea, Hellcats strafe battleships like the Musasha, helping sink the giant. Off Samar, when destroyers face off against Yamato, Hellcats provide air cover, buying time for reinforcements. By October 26, the Japanese fleet limps away, their naval air power shattered. Hellcats claim hundreds more victories, securing air superiority in the Pacific theater. Our boys celebrate quietly, toasting fallen comrades with coffee in the mess. Sprague survives a close call, his Hellcat shot up but holding together. He writes, "She brought me home safe. God's watching over us." The path to Japan opens wider, but whispers of island-hopping horrors like Iwo Jima loom. The war grinds on, and tension builds. What fresh hell awaits our heroes next? As 1945 dawns, the U.S. Navy steams toward Okinawa, the last major hurdle before the home islands in WW2. Hellcats, now the backbone of carrier air groups, fly endless sorties, supporting Marines on the ground. Captain Eugene Valencia, a Californian with a knack for tactics, leads the Flying Circus Squadron, teaching his men innovative maneuvers. Valencia's letters to his wife reveal the strain. "The boys look up to me, but I worry about bringing them all back." They rack up kills, protecting the fleet from kamikaze swarms that darken the skies. In April, during Operation Tengo, Hellcats join the assault on the Yamato, the world's largest battleship. Waves of our fighters dive in, guns and rockets blazing, helping send her to the bottom. Pilot Lieutenant Donald McPherson, a quiet ace from Oregon, downs 5 in his career, his story one of steady resolve. At 103 years old later in life, he recalls, "It was duty, pure and simple. We fought for each other." Amid the fury, personal bonds shine, wingmen saving wingmen, like when Ensign Frank Murray pulls his buddy out of a spin, both landing safely to share a laugh. But the kamikazes intensify, slamming into carriers like the Bunker Hill, testing our resolve. Hellcats form combat air patrols, intercepting before they strike. McCampbell, now ashore but his legend inspiring, had set the bar high. Young pilots emulate him, writing home about dreams of peace. As Okinawa falls in June, the cost is high, but victory nears. The atomic bombs drop in August, and Japan surrenders. Our Hellcat pilots, those American boys turned heroes, finally head home, their machines having downed over 5,000 enemy aircraft with a 19-to-1 kill ratio. Reflecting on it all, from Pearl Harbor's shock to VJ Day's joy, the Grumman F6F Hellcat stands as a symbol of American spirit in the Second World War. Those rugged fighters, flown by courageous souls like McCampbell, Harris, and countless others, dominated the skies when it mattered most. Their letters home, full of love and sacrifice, remind us of the human cost. Think about it, what would you write to your loved ones from the cockpit of a Hellcat, staring down the enemy? These men gave everything for freedom, and their legacy soars eternal. The Hellcat story doesn't end with the war's close. In the aftermath, these planes transition to training roles, but their impact echoes. Veterans like Arthur Van Heron Jr., a Mexican-American ace with 9 kills, face recognition challenges but persevere with quiet dignity. His tales of dogfights over the Philippines inspire generations, showing how diverse Americans united in the U.S. Army and Navy. Van Heron writes in his memoir, "It was about proving we all bleed red, white, and blue." Other pilots, like Captain Robert Hartline, who flew Hellcats in Marine squadrons, share stories of brotherhood. Hartline recalls a mission where his squadron escorts bombers to Tokyo, fending off interceptors with precision. "We were family up there," he says. These personal accounts weave a tapestry of heroism, from the first encounters to the final pushes. As we honor these American soldiers, consider the innovations the Hellcat brought: folding wings for carrier storage, self-sealing fuel tanks that saved lives. Engineers back home, like those at Grumman, poured their souls into it, knowing each bolt could mean a pilot's survival. Test pilot Corky Meyer pushes prototypes to breaking points, his feedback refining the design. "We built it tough for our boys," he notes. In quieter moments, pilots reflect on close calls. Ensign James Caldwell evades a Zero's burst, his Hellcat's armor shrugging off hits. He lands, kisses the deck, and writes home, "Luck and skill got me through. Can't wait to hug you." Such stories humanize the machines, showing the heart behind the hardware. The Pacific Theater's vastness amplifies the drama: endless blue below, enemies above. Hellcats range far, their 1,000-mile capability allowing strikes deep into Japanese territory. Raids on Truk Lagoon see our fighters strafing airfields, crippling the enemy's response. Pilot Lieutenant Commander Dean Laird, the only ace to down both Japanese and German planes, adds a unique chapter, flying Hellcats in the Pacific after Wildcats in Europe. Laird's versatility highlights American adaptability in WW2. He downs a Zero over Guam, then shares the tale with his squadron. It's all about staying one step ahead. What ingenuity! Would you have the nerve to switch theaters like that? As the war progresses, Hellcats evolve too, with night fighter variants equipped with radar, hunting in the dark. These Hellcat night fighters protect the fleet from nocturnal raids, their pilots like Lieutenant William Henry guiding by instruments alone. Henry's letter home captures the eerie thrill: "Flying blind, but the radar's my eyes. We're owning the night now." By mid-1945, with Japan on the ropes, Hellcats support the final carrier strikes on the homeland. Our boys fly over Tokyo, seeing the end in sight. Ensign Paul Newman, not the actor, but a real pilot, escorts photo recon missions, his Hellcat weaving through flak. He writes, "The sights below break your heart, but we press on for peace." Surrender comes on September 2, 1945, aboard the USS Missouri. Hellcat pilots circle overhead, a final show of strength. The relief is palpable, letters burst with joy: "It's over. Coming home soon." But scars remain, bonds forged in fire last lifetimes. Years later, veterans gather, sharing laughs over Hellcat models. McCampbell, Medal of Honor in hand, humbly recounts his exploits, emphasizing teamwork. "It wasn't me, it was the plane and the men," he says. His 34 kills stand as testament to American prowess. Donald McPherson, last surviving ace passing at 103, leaves a legacy of service. His 5 kills in Hellcats over the Pacific inspire, showing quiet heroes among us. These stories of sacrifice and triumph define the Hellcat era. From design board to victory, It's a saga of American resolve in the Second World War. As we remember, ask yourself, what role would you play in such a pivotal moment? The skies were won by these brave souls, and their echo reminds us freedom's price. But let's circle back to those early days, when doubt crept in after initial setbacks. The Battle of the Coral Sea in May 1942 exposes the Wildcats' limits against Zeros. Our pilots adapt, using thatch-weave tactics, but long for better tools. Grumman responds swiftly, incorporating lessons from combat reports. By 1943, Hellcats roll off lines at 500 per month, a production miracle fueling the push. First deployments on the USS Essex see pilots like Commander Jimmy flatly praising the handling. "She's forgiving, boys, lets you focus on the fight," he tells his squadron. They hone skills in mock dogfights, building confidence. Raids on the Gilbert Islands in November 1943 test the mettle. Hellcats cover landings on Tarawa, where Marines face hell on earth. Air support turns the tide, our fighters keeping the skies clear. Pilot Ensign Harold White downs his first Zero, heart racing as he pulls away. His letter felt like David slaying Goliath. "This Hellcat's my sling." Momentum builds through the marshals, with Hellcats striking Eniwec. Brotherhood shines. When a pilot goes down, others circle, directing rescues. Lieutenant Franco Fletti saves a buddy this way, earning lifelong gratitude. As we approach the Marianas again, recall the Turkey Shoot's details. Over 400 Japanese planes launch in 4 waves, but Hellcats, aided by radar-directed intercepts, decimate them. Vrayshu's 6-in-1 mission feat makes headlines back home, boosting morale. Post-battle, our carriers press on, Hellcats scouting for subs and stragglers. The quiet heroism of patrol flights, hours of boredom punctuated by sudden action, defines many days. Shifting to letter, the multi-pronged Japanese assault demands vigilance. In the Surigao Strait, night battles rage below while Hellcats rest, ready for dawn. McCampbell's epic sortie inspires awe, rushing 7 kills that day add to the legend. Kamikazes introduce terror, but Hellcats adapt, using proximity fuses in rockets to down them at range. Pilot innovation saves ships like the Intrepid. Okinawa's 82-day campaign sees Hellcats fly 10,000 sorties. Valencia's squadron claims 50 kills without loss, a testament to training. Final strikes on Kyushu see Hellcats bombing factories, hastening the end. Our boys sense victory, letters turning hopeful. In reflection, the Hellcats' 12,275 built underscore its role. With aces like Cecil Harris's 24 kills, the narrative is rich. These American stories, of boys becoming men, machines becoming legends, capture WW2's essence in the Pacific. Their courage dominates memory, just as Hellcats dominated the skies. What legacy would you leave in their boots? The first time a Japanese pilot realizes something has gone terribly wrong is at 30,000 feet over the Philippine Sea, June 19, 1944. He rolls his Zero hard left, hunting for the clumsy American Wildcats he's been chewing up for 2 years, but instead a blue-nosed monster with a snarling cat painted on the cowling fills his gunsight, closing faster than physics should allow, guns already flashing. In the 2 seconds it takes him to yank the stick, the Hellcat is gone, up and over, vanished into the sun, and his wingman is already a fireball tumbling toward the ocean. That pilot never expected the Grumman F6F Hellcat. No one in the Imperial Navy did. And in that moment, the entire air war in the Pacific flips on its head. It all traces back to one freezing morning in December 1941. Pearl Harbor is still burning when a 20-year-old kid from Dubuque, Iowa named Jimmy Thatch sits in a hangar on Ford Island, staring at the twisted wreckage of his squadron's Wildcats. He's just watched Zeros dance circles around American fighters, and he knows the math isn't kind. He grabs a matchbook, sketches a weaving defense on the back, and mutters, "We need a new airplane, or we're done." That matchbook ends up on a desk at Grumman, and the men in Bethpage, Long Island don't sleep much after that. By the summer of 1943 the first Hellcats are sliding off the assembly line, big, ugly brutish things with bent wings and armor plate thick enough to stop a 20mm round. Pilots who fly them fall in love instantly. The cockpit smells like fresh paint and possibility. A kid named David McCampbell, a soft-spoken ensign from Florida with a Bible in his flight bag, straps in for the first time and writes his wife that night, "Honey, this airplane is angry. It wants to fight." He has no idea how right he is. September 1, 1943. Wake Island. Lieutenant Butch Davenport rolls in on a Japanese flying boat lumbering over the lagoon. One short burst from 6.50 calibers and the big Kawanishi simply disintegrates. Davenport circles the smoking debris, laughing so hard over the radio the carrier crew thinks he's lost his mind. Word races through every ready room in the fleet, the Hellcat just drew first blood. And it's hungry. But the real shock is still coming. Fast forward 9 months. The Marianas. Admiral Spruant's fast carrier task force, 15 carriers, 700 aircraft, steams straight into the heart of Japan's inner defense ring. On the Japanese side, Vice Admiral Jisaburo Ozawa launches everything he has left, 400 planes in 4 massive raids. He expects another Midway-style slaughter of the Americans. What he gets is the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. At 10:36 a.m. the first wave hits the American radar picket. Hellcats are already climbing. Alex Vreeshu, a lanky kid from Chicago who looks like he should still be delivering newspapers, leads 12 F6Fs into a formation of 50 Japanese dive bombers. 8 minutes later he's out of ammunition and 6 Judies are gone. He waggles his wings at the burning ocean below and keys the mic, splash 6. Somebody else take the rest, I'm dry. The deck log on USS Lexington simply reads, ends. Vreeshu needs more bullets. By sunset the score is almost unbelievable, 373 Japanese planes destroyed, most of them in the air, most of them by Hellcats. American losses, 29. Pilots land back aboard with canopies shot full of holes, grinning like devils. One ensign from Alabama kisses the deck so hard he chips a tooth. Another sits on the catwalk and cries because his best friend didn't make it back. The flight surgeon pours coffee and listens. That's what brotherhood looks like at 200 knots. But the Japanese still have carriers, and they're running west. Night falls heavy and hot. On the bridge of USS Enterprise, a young radioman overhears Admiral Mitcher give the order that will be quoted forever, turn on the lights. Every searchlight, every signal lamp, every porch light on the task force blazes into the darkness so returning Hellcat pilots can find home. Planes land with less than 5 gallons of fuel, engines coughing. One pilot stalls it onto the deck, collapses the gear, and still walks away. The deck crew cheers until they're hoarse. 4 months later, October 1944, Letta Gulf, the biggest naval battle ever fought. The Japanese throw everything into one last gamble. And again the Hellcats are waiting. David McCampbell is now Commander Air Group 15 on USS Essex. On the morning of October 24th he launches with his wingman, Roy Rushing, against 60 Japanese fighters and bombers swarming the task force. For 45 minutes the two of them fight alone, 2 Hellcats against the sky. McCampbell shoots down 9. Rushing gets 7. When they finally limp home, McCampbell has exactly 4 rounds left and fuel gauges kissing empty. He traps aboard, climbs out, and the deck crew counts 112 bullet holes in his airplane. He just smiles and says, "She held together. That's what matters." What would you have done with 60 bandits closing and the fleet burning below? The kamikaze era begins days later. Young Japanese pilots, some barely 17, point their planes at American flight decks and never pull up. Hellcat pilots learn to hate the sunrise, because that's when the suicide planes come. Over Okinawa in April 1945 the fleet endures wave after wave. One morning USS Bunker Hill takes 2 direct hits and burns for 8 hours. Hellcats orbit overhead, low on fuel, shooting down everything that moves. When it's over, the flight deck looks like hell itself, but the ship is still afloat because those pilots refused to let another kamikaze through. Gene Valencia's flying circus squadron from USS Belleau Wood goes 24 straight days without losing a single pilot while shooting down 54 enemy aircraft. Valencia himself ends the war with 23 kills, all in Hellcats. After each mission he writes his wife a short note on whatever scrap of paper he can find, "Still here. Still yours. Love, Gene." Those notes are folded in a showbox in California to this day. By August 1945 the Hellcat has flown, quite literally, run out of enemies. Over 5,000 Japanese aircraft lie at the bottom of the Pacific, the vast majority shot down by F6Fs. The kill ratio is an insane 19-1. When Japan surrenders aboard USS Missouri, Hellcats from USS Yorktown fly the victory roll overhead, wingtips almost touching, engines roaring like freedom itself. The numbers are staggering, but the stories are what stay with you. The farm boy from Kansas who wrote his mom every single night he was at sea, even when there was nothing to say except "I'm still breathing." The Mexican-American kid from East LA who painted Pancho Villa on his cowling and became an ace before his 21st birthday. The ensign who carried his high school sweetheart's picture taped inside the cockpit window and talked to her every time he rolled in on a zero. These weren't supermen. They were 19, 20, 22 years old. They were terrified every time the klaxon sounded. They just refused to let fear win. When the war ends, they fly their battered Hellcats back to places like Alameda and Norfolk, park them in long rows, and walk away without looking back. Most never fly again. Some become farmers, teachers, mechanics, fathers. A few keep the picture from the cockpit in their wallets until the day they die. David McCampbell wears the Medal of Honor quietly, like it belongs to someone else. Alex Vreeshu goes home to Indiana and sells Chevrolets. Gene Valencia raises quarter horses in California and never talks about the war unless you ask him twice. But every now and then, at an airshow or a reunion, an old man in a faded squadron cap will stand in front of a restored Hellcat, run his hand along the wing, and you'll see his eyes go somewhere far away. For just a second he's 20 again, climbing through a broken cloud deck with the rising sun painting the cowling gold and a zero filling his gun sight and his heartbeat louder than the engine. That airplane, that ugly, beautiful, overbuilt beast of a fighter, carried ordinary American boys into the mouth of hell and brought most of them home again. It turned the Pacific sky from Japanese blue to American blue, one flaming zero at a time. And the Japanese pilots. They never saw it coming.